Hi, HRN listeners. We're celebrating our 15th anniversary, and we have a really fun campaign and an ask for you. This 15th anniversary tour is aiming to bring you closer to unique food and music experiences in some of the most exciting cities in America. All the while, we're raising funds to support our work empowering the next generation of food systems storytellers through our fellowship programs. Here's how it works. Donate to HRN and be entered into a raffle in the city of your choice to win a dinner for two at a noteworthy restaurant and tickets for two to a concert at a prominent local venue. We have incredible partners in New York, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Nashville, Las Vegas, Charleston, Asheville, and Ardmore, Pennsylvania, who have donated a meal for two and two tickets to a concert of the winner's choice. And all donations help fund our fellowship programs, where we're helping to build essential workforce readiness skills and food system storytelling skills. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15. Thank you.
Do you ever have brain fog and need a pick-me-up? Magic Mind is a cool new productivity drink with a mix of 12 functional ingredients that make you focus and help you fight off stress. Hey, welcome to Beer Sessions Radio on Heritage Radio Network. It's Tuesday, February 15th, 2022, and we're in the middle of Craft Malt Conference month. Just turned out that every show in February, we're doing a craft malt themed show. So this one is the intersection of like sail freight and floor malting and the Hudson River Valley. So let's go around the room and everyone introduce themselves. Start with Dennis.
Hey, y'all, it's Dennis Nessel. I'm here with my wife, Jeanette. We're Hudson Valley Malt, and they call me the Germinator.
And you're in Germantown. And may we hear Jeanette as well?
Yes, how are you? I'm Jeanette, also co-founder of Hudson Valley Malt in Germantown, New York.
Amazing voice. You're great. Mike, our brewer.
Yeah, hi, I'm Michael Ranganeski. I'm the brewmaster and co-owner at Hudson Valley Brewery. Stoked to be here.
Great, man. Welcome back. We had you on a long time ago when we were first talking about the Hudson Valley. So congrats.
Yeah,
and our skipper, the boat guy.
Hello, everyone. Sam Merritt here. Odd man out. I work on the water. I'm captain of a schooner, and we actually sail up and down the Hudson River, delivering delicious Hudson Valley malt to various breweries, including Hudson Valley Brewery.
All right. So a little over a year ago, people were concerned there weren't any more stories about real beer and good beer and ingredients and flavor and everything. And you guys came up with this little sail freight project. Why don't we have Dennis tell us about how you got involved? Because what's interesting to me is what you're actually shipping in a boat down the Hudson River.
Well, I got involved. This is Dennis, everybody. I got involved with the sail freight because this guy, Sam, who you're going to hear talking today, Captain Sam, I call him, was freaking relentless in calling me and showing up at the malt house and talking about his idea of shipping malt to Rivertown breweries up and down the Hudson River. It was right when COVID was breaking, and I really was, we were surrounding the wagons here, trying to see how we were going to work through this. And this guy just kept calling and coming here. And I just really, right, Sam, I really wasn't receptive at first because I was a little busy. And the brewers were, of course, nobody knew what was up. So I thought it was great, but nothing that I could be part of. But then a friend of Sam's called me, John Bowermaster, and said, come on, Dennis, wouldn't it be great to be part of something good right now with all this shit going on? Something
so
good.
Tell us what it was, though. Like, there's a boat and you're a maltster.
Yeah, okay. So the idea that Sam had, I can still picture him standing in front of the malt house telling me about this, is that he's got a sailboat, a 65-foot schooner, and it's in Hudson, which is just 7 miles from the malt house. And he wants to ship freight up and down the Hudson River on the sailboat. And I didn't think he was crazy. I just thought, because people think I'm crazy. So, because we make malt old school, right? But I certainly didn't think he was crazy. I just didn't have the time for it. But so to make a long story short, we got involved with it, and I just a joy to work with Captain Sam and bringing our malt, our local grains to breweries up and down the Hudson River, from Hudson, New York, all the way to river towns like to Mike and Beacon, and right on down through Poughkeepsie, Beacon, Newburgh, Ossining, Buchanan, right, Queens, Long Island City, Brooklyn, Manhattan. It was just it just made sense for us to be part of this wonderful way of shipping malt. Absolutely enjoy it and love it.
And it's been quite a sensation. And I think in May I met you guys at the dock in South Street Seaport. So Sam, again, why did you go from malt way back then? I mean, I know you've shipped things like logs with mushrooms on them and pumpkins, but how did you think about why did you think that malt would be a good cargo?
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm really interested in connecting the Hudson Valley, right? And in working with different people to move things throughout the Hudson Valley, and making the water and the Hudson River the focal sort of connection, the sort of superhighway that it once was through this region, make it relevant again. And I have to say, malt jumped out at me for a number of reasons, but it's awesome because it's directly supporting local farmers who are growing a product. And I will admit that part of what I wanted to do, right, like, is come up with a model that could actually work. And the more I started looking into various products, I was amazed by how many breweries there were that were close to the water. So not only was Dennis 7 miles away in Germantown, so that was very exciting. And that made it really like a very logical connection. But all of a sudden, when I started thinking about all the places the malt goes, we could actually connect them. I had been approached actually by a number of people who wanted us to ship things, but it was often we would, sail it down the Hudson River, and then we'd have to meet a truck that would drive it 2 hours away to where it was going. And that didn't really feel like it was creating a model that I was too excited about. And so we've worked hard to create a model that takes as much of the trucks and the emissions and the transportation and the congestion and all those other things out of it. And the trick with that is to get the boat as close as possible to the products that we're loading, and then also to the people who need them. And by no means is this a perfect model. We are actively trying to figure it out and work it out. But the malt has been a wonderful partnership. It's been really fun, and it's grown. And I look forward to it continuing to grow this season.
Great. And let's go to Mike, the brewer. So Mike, first I want to catch up with you because the last time we talked was probably 2015. We did the Hudson new primitives, and you guys were just making your mark. Congrats. And tell us a little bit about Hudson Valley Brewery, because I've never interviewed you since then.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, man. I mean, I feel like we were having the seed of this conversation 6 or 7 years ago in that one. But since me and my partner, Jason and John Anthony, have opened up Hudson Valley Brewery in Beacon. We're a 30-barrel brew house. We're doing like maybe 5,000 barrels a year. We focus primarily on sour beer, with like fruit-heavy sour IPAs, and then a local mixed culture sour farmhouse program. So yeah, now we're open in Beacon, and we've got a second location as a barrel kind of wild fermentation space in Poughkeepsie. And yeah, things are rolling, man. Everything's going really well over at the brewery.
Great. And then at what point did you get involved with the sail freight? Because Dennis said, if you're looking to invite brewers who are great supporters of our craft malt grain supply chain, then you got to talk to Mike at Hudson Valley Brewery.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
I got a call from Sam out of the blue, and it was kind of really perfect serendipitous timing. Me and Dennis have been working together for a really long time. We met, right, Dennis, at like a malting school, probably like 2013 or something, upstate at the Farmhouse Brewery.
You and I were in the same class, yeah.
Yeah. We were
Marty Matrazo?
Yeah, exactly. Good old Marty.
Wow.
Yeah, and at the time I was thinking about like, oh, it would be cool. We can grow grain, we can malt it, we can make this whole. This is at Bacchus Brewery in New Paltz. Like make this whole small scale, um, enclosed, encapsulated little brewery from start to finish, and that didn't pan out exactly. But we've been using Dennis's malt ever since he started. And when Sam called me, we were right in the process of making all of our Hudson Valley sour farmhouse beers, 100% New York beers, and really incorporating a lot more of Dennis's stuff into the rest of our beers too. And also spending a lot of energy on our, energy usage, our recycling programs, just our kind of waste management and byproducts of our production. And so when Sam called me, he was like, hey, I want to sail this grain down to you from Dennis and then get on a couple of e-powered bicycles and ride it up the hill to the brewery. I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer. So we were able to make at least one full beer now that's, exclusively with this kind of like eco orientation from start to finish, where Dennis is, malting on his floor. It's sailed down the superhighway of the Hudson River, bike to the brewery, and then, turned into beer.
So you guys, like, I think when I first talked with Sam and Dennis like over a year ago, we were talking about trying to identify as a boat project, but you just said eco.
Yeah.
Sam, how's it going for you? Is that really what is becoming the identity of your project? Because, like, again, Mike just said eco, and that kind of resonated with me more than barley boat beer that I was trying to make you use last year.
Well, and it's interesting. I like that Mike said that, and certainly none of this is rehearsed. But we absolutely, like, the theme for us has been connecting the Hudson Valley and weaving it together, right, and creating this sort of like sustainable network. And so it is true that, like, I was hesitant, Jimmy, not because I don't love this malt connection, but I didn't want to peg it as just the beer boat, because honestly we haul a number of different cargoes. But that said, like, genuinely, malt has become a backbone of our operation. And I think it's partly because there are so many brewers like Mike who care a lot about where the ingredients come from and care a lot about the Hudson Valley, right? Like it's part of what we're trying to do is convince people that they want to get things as local as possible, right? And with the breweries, that's almost like that work is already done. They're already trying to get everything local. They're already, like, very interested in supporting the economy around here. And so we're just giving them yet another way that they can take, like, sort of one deeper dive into really understanding the local ecosystem, connecting people with the Hudson Valley. And then also, I think of it as we're creating an ecosystem. And I don't know if that's where eco comes from for Mike, but I love that he uses that word.
No, that's great. And let's bring Jeanette in, because Jeanette, tell us your take on all this.
Well, it's funny that you said we need another. You were referencing another beer story because people were not sure if they've heard everything yet. So I believe that Captain Sam has, I wouldn't use the word relentless, I would use the word passionate. And I think he has brought so much highlight to what this project is all about. And I think it's an educational project. There are so many people that, besides the media and the exposure that this project has given, that we talked to when we visited the West Coast this summer, and we were talking about this project to some other maltsters and other brewers out there, and they were fascinated. I mean, think about it. We're probably one of Captain Sam. You're probably the only one right now in the world doing it. So you are really raising the bar on sustainability as far as the brewing industry goes, and it's wonderful. What a great thing to talk about. I was talking to a friend, a friend in the media that I used to be involved with, and I was trying to explain to her why Captain Sam was delivering via a bike across this very long bridge in the Hudson Valley. And and she's like, her name is Patty Quinn. And she's like, wait, what did you just say? He's delivering what? And it just it gets people engaged in a whole new conversation on our industry.
Okay, well, let's talk about how local the malt is and why this makes so much sense. Um, who wants to talk about, besides Hudson Valley Brewery, mention a few of the other breweries and perhaps a favorite beer that you had that was made with sail freight malt? Sam, was there one that became a go-to or anything?
Well, it's so I can quickly give some shout outs. I mean, we've worked with 14 or it might be 15 at this point different breweries, but there are certainly some that sort of stand out as our consistent partners. And so I always think of it as sort of a corridor sailing down the Hudson River because that's just how my brain works. But genuinely, our first stop is usually in Poughkeepsie, and we often see Jamie Bishop at Millhouse. And the Millhouse Light is an awesome beer, and that's like that is many times has been the standard beer on the boat just because it's such a nice, easy end of the day kind of beer, and also it's really committed to local sustainable products, so everyone gets excited about that. I've handed out Millhouse Lights to other boaters as we were sailing past. Early in the season for us, there's a lot of fishermen out. We've done like hysterical, sort of like antics where we're sailing past and there's like a fisherman and we're like chuck a beer into their boat for them. And so we've really distributed that beer because we get it in Poughkeepsie, so we sort of get it right away. But yeah, then usually our next stop is going to be coming down to Beacon. And every run last season, we worked with Hudson Valley Brewing. And as Jeanette mentioned, sometimes it was easier than other times, but we're committed to making this work. The first run, we went there last year. We couldn't actually get dockage on the correct shore of the Hudson River, so we had to tie up on the Newburgh side, not the Beacon side, and actually ride all the stuff across the bridge with a bike. But we got it there nonetheless, and it was a wonderful way to make a splash and sort of get people's attention. And we've been working consistently with Hudson Valley ever since then. So that's been just a real pleasure. As we keep sailing down the river. There's a number of other brewers we worked with once or twice, but every single time we've stopped at Sing Sing, Kill, and Ossining. And so I always like to give a real strong shout out to those guys. They actually started working with us. They're one of the first breweries to get on board back in October of 2020. And they, since then, have received all of their malt by sail freight. So that's, and they're a smaller scale operation. So, not every brewery can do that. And for a lot of breweries, like with Hudson Valley, we focus on a specific beer where we can really make an impact. But Sing Sing Kill, it's a pretty dedicated operation there, right in the Ossining.
So every beer they've made since then has used the malt?
Yeah, all of the malt that has been delivered since October 2020 has come from us to that brewery. I mean, I guess amazing. To be honest, I don't know if it's possible they're running around on Dennis and getting malt from anywhere else, but I know that for Dennis's malt, that's the story.
And well, I will say, I'm going to say during COVID in particular, this just stood out as such a hopeful story, not only about the whole like little ecosystem of beer and other products, but also just how local malt is such an important part of the entire farm to table to glass economy. Dennis, you want to take that? Let's just do some of the basics of local malt, because this is also like the craft malt conference is coming up. I know that Floor Malting has its own seminar at the craft malt conference. So let's talk about you guys. Why did you get started in this, and why did you do floor malting? Right. And take us through the main steps. Like, you soak, you bud, and you toast. What kind of industry is this?
I love you, Jimmy. Soak, bud, and toast. Yep, that's it in a nutshell. So you want me to give you a strong case for what it is that we do and why do we do it and how do we do it, right? Yeah. So basically, you're say no more. I say no more, because you didn't ask me what beer I was drinking. So Jeanette's actually drinking Say No More, which is which is from Hudson Valley Brewery.
Love a lager.
And I started with Bespoke, which is their Hudson Valley Brewery's hoppy saison, right, Mike? Did I say that right?
You got it, man. You guys got hooked up with some beers, it sounds like.
That's right. Jamal set us up. But I'm done with that little tiny bottle, Mike. And I opened up. I have a Valley beer that was bottled in the fall of 2020 that I opened for this
Oh,
special
nice.
podcast tonight. Yes. So it, I love this bottle, and I love the fact that you have made a commitment and that you're on a mission. Like you said earlier, guys, I'm telling you, this guy, Mike, is on a mission to leave a small footprint as possible, and using local grains.
What's that beer then? That's Say No More.
On the second one, I'm on Valley Beer, which is it's basically their Hudson Valley Sour Farmhouse ale, which has got Mike's. It's got all our ingredients in it. It's got our wheat from John Kukan, who grows it in Germantown, just 5 miles away, and our Germantown Pilsner malt, which is something that Mike likes to use. Or Mike, tell him a little bit more about it.
Well, wait a minute.
I just know it tastes good.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Dennis, I know you're on your second beer, but Jimmy was asking about the process of germination.
Okay. All right. So thanks for reeling me back.
Yeah, we'll circle back to that.
So look, this is why we get along so well with Sam, because my colleagues that make malt across the country that don't rake it like we do, that are using more modern ways of making malt, they make amazing malts. And a lot of them bust my chops, and they call us crazy for making malt this old school way, where we germinate it in tanks, and then we lay it out on the floor. Excuse me, we steep it in the tanks, we germinate it on the floor, we rake it with a rake. And if you don't know what that is, come to our Instagram page, Hudson Valley Malt, and you'll see us running a rake through it. What the rake does, it introduces oxygen so that the germinating grain can grow and live for 5 days, because it's really the germination of the grain that breaks down the plant's protein into the enzyme that the brewer needs to convert the starch to sugar. You got me?
So the soak is the steep. Would you say germination is budding? Because I couldn't quite think of a other way to describe germination.
Okay. Look at it this way, bud. You saw what I did there, bud?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. You got it.
We steep it, right, to hydrate the grain. Remember when we were in grade school and we were given a little Dixie cup, and we had a little soil in it? We put the teacher gave us a bean, and we put that in there, and then we put some water in there, and they put it up on the windowsill, and then a couple of days later, right, we had a little bud, right? And we thought, as kids, that was like magic, right? Do you remember that, Jimmy?
Yeah, now I'm picturing it. Thank you.
Okay. So when we're kids, we look at that and we say, well, wow, that's a miracle. But really what's happening is every seed is protein. The makeup is protein, starch, and a dormant embryo. You soak it in water, as you say, soak. We call it steep, but soak is good. You soak it, it hydrates, it imbibes, it uptakes water until the DNA of the seed says, hey, I got to sprout. Okay. So then it starts to put out little rootlets in search of more moisture and nutrients. It's at that point, after we steep it, that we put it on the floor with a gazillion of its other buddies that are also moist at a 6-inch layer, and it starts to germinate, starts to grow. As the plant grows, it breaks down its own protein into the enzyme, okay? When it reaches the desirable point where the maltster says, hey, we don't want this to grow too far, because then it becomes a plant. We don't want a plant, right? So 4 or 5 days of germination, then we put it in the kiln, which is high velocity air, low temperature, 122 degrees Fahrenheit, and we drive off all of that water that we needed to get it to germinate in the first place. But we arrest the growth right there at the desirable point, where now, instead of protein and starch, we have enzyme and starch. And that's what the brewer needs. He makes a grist, he puts it in warm water, right? In the warm water, the enzyme and the starch are soluble, they marry and create sugar. I mean, that's the simple thing. That's basically my little nickel tour when you come here.
Amazing.
Well, that's a good start, because I was actually reading to prep for this. Jeff Allworth, our great writer friend from Beervana blog, he's the reason I know the words steeping, germination, and kilning. And his is a little more like academic and thoughtful because Jeff's the best beer writer I know. He goes, barley goes through 3 or 4 stages of preparation: steeping, germination, kilning, and in some cases, roasting. So, but then the floor malt part, for like, let's go back to Mike. So you as a brewer, how important is the floor malting? Like, could we do local malt, but in like a machine, like a magic machine?
Yeah, I think you could. And
But then
we
it would
use
lose all its magic.
it would lose some magic though, right? So the way I see it is like there's a lot of fun and excitement in doing things kind of the hard way, and there's a lot of ease and convenience everywhere else in the world, it seems like, to do it a different way. We can buy our grain cheaper from Iowa. We can get a truck to here faster with a Mack truck, right? But to be able to go through these very simple and kind of beautiful processes with Dennis through Sam, to me, is like more important than any of it, So if we're paying a little more, taking a little more time, it's awesome. The reason I work with Dennis isn't so much the floor malt, and although I think he'd argue that that's probably not only the magic, but like the identity and the flavor of his grains, but it's really, kind of in Sam's point of view and in his line of thinking, is like to make that connection to a bigger community. So I can go to Dennis's house, smell this wet grain on the floor, watch it germinate, imagine the conversion to starch. I take it back to where I work and make sugar out of it. I add a little bit of yeast and I wait, and all of a sudden I've got a bottle of Valley beer sitting next to me that's been like in my world, in the world of that drinker in the Hudson Valley for its whole life,
Yeah.
And I love it. I geek out about that, and I'm passionate, and I live it, and my hope, if any, in the beer world is like, and I see it every day too, people are stoked about it, but one day, like, everybody will have to go see Dennis and be like, oh, that was cool. Yeah. Now I really get it. And there's a new sort of appreciation and a new sort of energy in that beer product, because ultimately, like, we're not talking about just drinking beer anymore. We're not talking about alcohol necessarily. We're talking about like a culinary hobby and a culinary passion that you can explore indefinitely. So to have these kind of just partners in how we produce our product is just so much more fun than anything else. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I mean, and even if you're cooking or something, often a little extra, elbow grease, a little hard work. Sometimes you get a little more flavor out of things too, don't you?
Yeah. Or if you got a garden and you're growing the tomatoes for your sauce, you're gonna love that sauce. Or if your neighbor's giving them to you, you know what I mean?
Yeah. We've been talking about craft malt all month, and about a year ago, you guys were one of the first craft malt episodes we talked about, just with the boat and everything. And I feel like I'm just starting to understand it more. Back in 2016, I was in your malt house, Dennis, and I think I got to rake for a minute or two. But it's really amazing. And I don't think that the average person realizes that. Pete Brown wrote a book a few years ago. It was about the ingredients of beer. And he had said that the average person just thinks that beer is made from chemicals. What do you think that, I don't know, how does this all work together for people? Like, I want craft malt beers. I want local malt beers. I want to taste them. Right now I'm drinking Exhibit A, brewing from Massachusetts. They've got a briefcase porter. It's all malts from Valley Malt. And I've got it at, cellar temperature like the English. And for me, this is a great beer. And I want to, like, when think about all the struggles of what to buy. You walk into a store to choose a beer. For me, if there's some mention of local malts or craft malts, I'm definitely more interested in it. I mean, how have you seen things change, or what do you tell people that don't really know about this?
So what Mike said about community and about he could make beer using industrial malt, but I think the thing that really the fun part, I mean, by the way, making malt the way we do, it's a rough job. You get calluses on your hand. You're up before the rooster, you know, and sometimes you're out there raking it where everybody's already home. You're up early. But in 2014, when I first met Mike, I went, I had this passion, I think, like Sam, and we really were onto something. And Jeanette and I saw we were newbies at this, Jimmy. We saw that we had this amazing brewing scene in the Hudson Valley, and where we live in Columbia County, we're surrounded by some of the best growers, the best farmers, hardest working farmers. They would grow it. They would grow barley, even though it's a finicky crop. And we had brewers that would use it, but there was no malt house. So there was no local malt house here. And so Jeanette and I looked at that and we said, well, that, being newbies, we were like, okay, well, why is there not a malt house? So we decided, let's make the connection. But we were so naive. We didn't realize how tough it is to grow barley, right? So we also didn't realize it was going to be our job, Jimmy, to help build the supply chain and build more growers than just one farmer. So now we have 8 amazing growers throughout the state. But back then we only had one, and I had relationship with that grower, and I'm very, very loyal. So I didn't have it with anybody else. And then his crop failed, and then we were screwed. But then we ran out and found a bunch of other farmers really fast. And we decided, wow, we have to diversify our growers into the different microclimates throughout New York State. Thank God we're a big state, right? So that the different weather patterns are spread out. So we spread out our risk. But what I really want to tell you is that in 2015, there was no beer being made here in the Hudson Valley using Hudson Valley grains. And I feel so proud that we have people like Mike and Hudson Valley Brewery that have helped us build something that none of us have ever had before. And that is a malting barley supply chain here in the Hudson Valley of our very own. And when I say very own, that's growers, that's brewers, that's maltsters.
Wow. We're off to a great start. And we're going to take a short break and be back in a few minutes on Beer Sessions Radio. Do you ever have brain fog and need a pick-me-up? I've been trying this new drink in the morning. It looks like wheatgrass and tastes like matcha. It's a magical little elixir called Magic Mind, and it's really helping clear things up. It also helps fight off procrastination, fatigue. We all need that, right? It comes in this small bottle. I shoot it down, and I'm ready to get my day going. If you're like me and need to get a lot of things done in the shortest amount of time, go to magicmind.co/HRN and use discount code HRN to get 20% off today. Magic Mind is your best choice when it comes to getting more done in less time through the power of the nootropics inside. They even have a money-back guarantee. Any first purchase will be refunded, no questions asked. Again, go to magicmind.co/HRN and use discount code HRN to get 20% off today. Thanks, Magic Mind. Yeah! All right. Hey, welcome back to Beer Sessions Radio on Heritage Radio Network. Thanks for supporting us, and become a member at heritageradionetwork.com/donate. So we're in the middle of our Craft Malt Conference month, and we're talking with local maltster from the Hudson Valley Malt in Germantown, New York, and part of the Sail Freight Project. So Dennis, you just gave us a wonderful, passionate little take on the challenges and why you're such an important pioneer in local malt. And then I want to have Sam. So Sam, you're the boat guy, the Sail Freight. You got such a great response this year in 2021. You got a New York Times article. Why don't you give us a shout out to a couple of the people that really helped you out? I know some are on the show, but you really you made everyone happy in the year of COVID. Thanks for what you did, man.
Hey, well, you're very welcome. And honestly, it's really fun to sit here and just get to listen to Dennis and Michael talk about what they do and why they do it. For me, the Hudson Valley is it's an amazing place. And there's so much amazing stuff going on. And the part I wanted to get involved in is transportation, right? You have all these wonderful products, different producers, and then personally, it sort of breaks my heart that the connection between everything is like petroleum powered vehicles on asphalt highways everywhere. And also I just want people to connect with the water, right? And so I get so excited about the idea that we can add that as a part of the story, right? But obviously the story's already there, and people are there. The work that we do, it only works because of our shipping partners, right? If Dennis wasn't making an amazing product, if Michael didn't want it, there'd be no purpose in us doing what we're doing. We do have quite a team, and this is actually one of the things that I think is so important. It's really important that I understand what the products are that we haul, and also that the rest of the crew does, right? And so it's not just me. I guess that's what I just wanted to say is there's a crew of us. It's usually 4, sometimes it's 5. On some runs, we've had 6 crew members. It depends on, no one wants to feel left out. Sometimes people just hop aboard. And every single one of our crew members has met Dennis and has helped load the malt and understands the farm. And what that means, it means when we make a delivery to one of our breweries, we can sort of add that touch. We can say how Dennis was feeling or what we heard about the crop, or just kind of add that part of it. But I think it's important because so many people we're trying to build this connection and build this relationship, right? And so we can all support each other. And standard shipping kind of does it in this way where it's you don't really, it goes into this black box and it just pops out the other side, and maybe there's a truck involved, but people don't really know. And so we're trying to just make that whole process really engaging. And so the team is obviously the whole crew. Everyone's involved. Everyone meets people on both ends. Everyone learns about the products that we haul. Everyone talks to people at waterfronts about it. I mean, when we're unloading a bag of malt, I would say maybe 1 in 20 people have any idea what we're actually unloading. So we do a fair amount of explaining what malt is and why it's an important ingredient. And like Dennis is saying, hey, did you know that you can make beer from grains grown right here in the Hudson Valley? And people at the waterfronts along the Hudson River, they love that, right? But the other person I just have to give a really quick shout out to, if this is a shout out moment, is our own supercargo and my dear friend Brad Vogel, who has been a huge help in sort of organizing all this. As you can imagine, the sailing the ship side of it is lots of work, and is the heart of what we do. But also it's learning about these connections, making the sort of models and bringing them to life. And Brad has been, I know you know him, Jimmy, and I know Dennis knows him well. And he's done a lot to really help make this all happen.
I know him on Instagram as @BoweryBird. But
Indeed.
I still got to meet him. And then for you, Sam, just for the little bit of the celebrity dust that you got going on, what do you like better, sailing boats or riding intense cargo bicycles up hills?
Oh God, definitely the boats. It's interesting. The bicycles. Well, I shouldn't have said that quite as extremely, because I will say there's something amazing about the bike, and I really do love parts of it. But I will admit that to me, in my perfect world of the Hudson Valley that I hope to see in the next 10 years, there are many small bicycle-powered logistic companies that we work with, and we meet them dockside and we unload the malt, and then they bike it up the hill. And only because it's not the most efficient thing to do what we do, because we actually take up a fair amount of our cargo hold space with the equipment that we use for the delivery. But obviously we do it because we're passionate about what we do, and because we couldn't stand the idea of trucks driving through waterfronts to get to docks, right? And so I think bikes are an amazing technology, just the way boats are. There's something that's so funny to me, and this is part of, I think, why floor malting resonates with me personally so much, is it's there are all these fancy new solutions to things that seem like really good ideas, right? And then there's some just tried and true old school ways that just work. And I have to say, sailboats, bicycles, and floor malting all go in that category for me, right? It's bikes are just this wonderfully simple, efficient machine that you can ride from point A to point B. Sailboats, it's yeah, I mean, renewable fuels are great and you can power things on all sorts of different stuff, but powering yourself by the wind, what a fun thing that is. And then I think, honestly, the floor malting does fit in that category to me. It's it's this very tactile, hands-on. It's instead of, I don't even know how industrial malt is made, but I would imagine there's some big machine that's doing that. And I'll tell you, as someone who's shown up, who the first time I met Dennis, he made me rake the stuff, right? And I think that's awesome, though, right? Because that's how you get a sense of the products that we're moving around and who these people are and what this stuff is. And I think that helps me sort of convey some of that excitement, some of the passion that Dennis has for his products to the people when we make the delivery on our end.
Wow. So for Sam, the next question is going to be, they're going to be like, you like sailing better, riding your bike up hills, or raking 1,000 pounds of floor malt?
Well, I have to say that the floor malt is a wonderfully meditative moment, man. It's very different. Sailing and biking are both things where you're trying to keep track of 100 different things, right? There's things in front of your face you got to do. You got to tie this rope off, whatever you got to do, and then you've got to keep track of the big picture. What's happening in the rigging? Is there commercial traffic? Is someone hailing me on the radio? It's kind of this whole situational awareness thing. Bicycling, same thing. Obviously, you're watching for car doors and red lights and all these little things. And are my tires running low on? And I have to say, when you're raking the malt on the floor, it's just like, it was awesome. You're just like zoned out. You're just like thinking about this rake. Like that's a nice mindset to be in.
Yeah.
Hey, hold the phone there. So I wonder if you want to come down here and have a wonderful meditative moment with me in about a half an hour.
In our
and
Zen
rake.
So what are you doing? Half an hour.
Oh, I'm going to be raking that piece,
Again.
that malt, before the night.
So what is it? Tell us what's the grain? What's the farmer? What is it?
So we call it a piece. So the batch that's on the floor is called a piece, and it's 6,000 pounds, not 1,000. And I am going to attack it tonight in a different way, Sam. I'm gonna have a Zen moment, and I'm gonna think of you, and I'm gonna say, before I start pulling that rake through with my legs, my back, and my arms, I'm gonna say this evening, I'm gonna make this rake a wonderful meditative moment, and I'm gonna make the best batch ever.
Well, let me get to Jeanette. Jeanette, how do you explain this to your friends?
Well, this whole process, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, well, first of all, I give the Disney tour because I don't drill it down as scientific as Dennis does. But in response to what Captain Sam and Dennis has said about raking the malt, it's a definite live in the moment thing. You are focusing on that, and that's about it, and yeah. So it's pretty good. How do I explain it? Where Dennis could go on for at least an hour explaining the science of it, I do it in 5 minutes.
Well, give it to us then.
Oh, geez. Okay. Steep, germinate, kiln, sweat, bag.
So that's kind of like a soak, bud, and toast.
Yes.
Yeah.
But not really.
Yeah, keep using that. That's very unique.
I love it.
Jeanette, I just want just also, when you guys started, like, how you were more than pioneers. You're doing something that no one was doing. So separate from tours, before you had tours, what did you say to people that you knew outside of the beer business, outside of this, about what you guys were doing? Like, how would you describe this new business you guys went into in 2014?
Well, being in the media industry, when I told them I'm done after 40 years, I'm going to go into agritourism and I'm going to malt, they had no idea what I was talking about. They thought I was out of my mind. Maybe I am. I don't know. But we still have people my age come to the malt house and ask, how are the hops? So it is a continuous education process. And once you, like Captain Sam had said, once you pull that rake through the grain and the malt, you have a whole new appreciation for what this is all about. And my opinion is, I think the malt is more flavorful because of that. I often, in my Disney tour, I often talk about how I compare it to, yes, you can go to a store and buy a frozen apple pie and bring it home and bake it, but you can also go to a farmer's market and buy a freshly baked apple pie. I mean, it's that much of a difference. It's so cool. It's such a rewarding business. And the collaboration in this business is phenomenal. I've never seen anything like it.
Wow. So back to Mike. So Mike, Dennis gave a shout out to some of your beers. and I know that you've been kind of on this course of local ingredients for a long time. So when you're working with a different malt, what are some of the steps you're taking as a brewer? Like, how do you figure out, like, you have a sense of what that malt's going to do to your beer? You as a brewer, like, you got a brand new malt. Give us a story of maybe the recent Valley beer or the Say No More, perhaps.
Yeah, sure. So for me, mostly I work with Dennis on a lot of raw grains and on lighter kiln malts. So um, we use a lot of Germantown pills and recently a lot of I guess would you call it pills malt too on the 6-row, Dennis, or a pale malt 6-row?
So that was also lightly kilned, the 6-row. Yep.
Yeah. So both are biscuity, cracker jacky, almost sort of peanut buttery sometimes. And they add just a really like unique kind of multi-dimensional grain flavor to our beer. We don't brew a ton of dark beer. Say No More is one of the few, and I gotta say that's not Dennis's dark malts in there. Those are German, I think, kiln malts. But when we are working with Dennis, it's a matter of creating kind of like a base, a reliable, clean base for our beers. Particularly something like Valley beer, which is exclusively a New York beer. There's no hops in it. There's only our yeast from our barrels and Dennis's malt and our water and beacon. So
there's no hops.
No hopping. No, it's definitely a malt and yeast, and I think oak barrel kind of showcase. So when I work with Dennis's malt, I'm generally thinking of like simplicity, So in beer in general, I think there's like a trend, a tendency, and an excitement to like go as far reaching as possible. Like we've all had or seen some of my beers they have like 15 different ingredients in them. There's blueberry and pineapple and hibiscus and things from all over the world a lot of the time. For something like Valley beer, it's nuanced and understated, and because of that, it relies on like multiple steps of what I would call like craft, in a serious way, and not necessarily like just piled on flavors, right? Dennis's malt has to be done really well in order for Valley beer to exist. And Dennis has been at this for 10 years now. And year 2 or 3, I was like, I don't know if I like this malt, and I didn't like some of the beers we made too, but in the years that we've all been working on this, we've been able to develop these skills and crafts to make a beer like Valley beer able to exist. So now when I use Dennis's malt, it's like super reliable, beautiful, and contributes the flavor that I need in that process every time. And the thing that I find the most like kind of pleasure in that is that the production of Valley beer is beyond just Hudson Valley Brewery, and the more I can reflect on that and the more I can like tell that story, the more the Hudson Valley agricultural world comes into like a fuller picture for people. So when we're sitting down at the tasting room in the brewery and somebody orders Valley beer and we can tell them a story like this one, of not only local production from, seed literally to bottle cap, but also in transportation, it's like you can use the beer, just to kind of imagine a fuller picture, a fuller world of this production. And so,
wow.
Yeah, I've always kind of like dug beer through that and thinking of like when we are drinking these beers in a careful and kind of creative way, and we're like thinking about what they taste like, and we're trying to come up with like these like memories of what flavor you're tasting. It's this way of, for me, always using what is generally a fun drinking experience to kind of like, think a little bit sometimes. And when you can paint a picture that's kind of as pretty as this one we're describing today,
it's amazing. I want to get to Sam because Sam's kind of the outsider of beer. Sam, did you realize when you started this that 8, 10 years ago there wasn't any local malt in your region? That this is a
I
new
wish I could
thing.
say I knew that, but I won't claim any. Honestly, my appreciation of beer has grown tremendously in the last couple of years through working with people like Michael and Dennis and Jeanette. I think like a lot of people probably, I sort of just approached beer as like, it means it's the end of the day. I never really thought a lot about where the ingredients came from. And these days, living in the Hudson Valley, it's hard not to have the opposite experience, right? Because I mean, we are just surrounded by really clever breweries everywhere doing really interesting things. And when I started trying to figure out how we can be part of a sustainable supply chain, it's like with breweries, the options are endless. It's all really interesting. And it's one thing that Jeanette said that I just wanted to sort of like highlight is this like cooperative kind of like mentality. But I will say that, part of what we want to do is work with a lot of different breweries, right? And I was nervous at first that it would be like I don't know, how are they going to get along with each other? And every brewer we talk to is so excited to hear we're working with other breweries, right? It's like the least exclusive thing. It's like everyone wants to be working with each other, and the space for collaboration and the space for working together is really it's really been inspiring to me, honestly, and it's like how I try to connect a lot of other things in my life. And I had no sense of this in the brewery world at all until I sort of got into it through Dennis.
Wow. And then back to Dennis. So we're going to wrap it up with you as a pioneer. I mean, from just talking to you, craft malt is kind of coming into its own now, but not too long ago, some brewers dissed it. What kept you going, and how did you make this work? Because some malt houses went out of business. A lot of breweries they were turning their nose up at the local malt for at least the first few years, right?
Well, we had a learning curve, right? Like, ask any brewer, do you think the first beer they ever made was the best they ever did? They get it. They understand we had a learning curve. We had to figure out, like Mike said, he wasn't sure if he liked it, but, he gave us a shot, right? And that's all we need, because we are nothing. We are nothing without commitments from people like Mike and Hudson Valley Brewery, okay? And we are nothing at Hudson Valley Malt. We are nothing without the ones that are on the top, that are on the supply chain, the first people, and those are our growers. So Jeanette and I are in the middle. We need wonderful support from our brewers, and we need growers that'll put it together. So there was a learning curve for us. How do we make the finest malt? Well, have you ever heard the saying, you can't make chicken soup out of chicken shit? So right.
I never did.
Okay, so good in equals good out.
I thought it was chicken wings or something.
Yeah. So we if you think about it, when I said there was no malt, there's been malt, but there were no growers here in the Hudson Valley growing Hudson Valley barley in 2014. Jeanette and I remedied that. So now we've got growers. And we've got the growers because I have support from people like Mike at Hudson Valley Malt. And I can go back to a grower, a 70-year-old grower. I can go to him and say, can you plant an extra 40 acres for me this year? And he looks at me and he goes, really? And it is so cool for me to look back at him and say, really? We have gone from making 500. We couldn't sell 500 pounds in 2000. We couldn't sell 500 pounds a month in 2015, right? And so it was a struggle, but Sam, you know what it's like, right? You were standing in my malt house and I wasn't really on board. You have a passion for what you do. And like, sometimes I kick myself thinking, why was I such a jackass? Why didn't I say yes right away? But now I feel that what we're part of here is with people like Mike Ranganesi and Hudson Valley Brewery, people like him that support what we're doing. Now I can go back to that grower and I can ask him to grow 30 or 40 more acres. I mean, last year we bought 1 million pounds of barley. Are you kidding me? I would have never thought of that. This year we're buying 1.2 million pounds of barley from growers that were not growing this in 2015. And then I got a guy like Sam who is passionate about what he does, and he wants to haul our malt up and down the Hudson River to serve Hudson River town breweries, from here 100 miles away. And I've got colleagues in the Pacific Northwest saying to me, it's amazing that you guys are shipping your malt on a sailboat. It's so cool, to be part of this world
Dennis,
right now,
in 2021, how many pounds of malt went down the river on the Schooner Apollonia?
Oh, Sam knows that better than me. Sam, what was it?
We were somehow we were just short of 34,000 pounds. It was actually 33,900 something. So I think it's safe to say 34,000, but I don't want to misrepresent anything.
And Sam, outside of malt and the beer you got to drink, what was your funnest cargo? Because you had some pretty cool projects.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, it's hard to say what's well. You know what? I guess I can answer that. Like, I love making deliveries to breweries. But we did one run where we brought pumpkins down to kids in New York City, and I will say, watching kids get excited to get a pumpkin off the sailboat, it was awesome. I mean, they were just like at the side of the dock, like couldn't believe that we'd sail these pumpkins down, and that was probably, in terms of engaging directly with people, it was hard to beat the pumpkins going straight to kids in Manhattan, and being able to. But what's interesting is that's so similar to this, right? Because again, we're telling stories of farmers delivering products to someone and giving them a connection to the Hudson Valley, and whether it's a kid, going to carve a jack-o'-lantern, or it's someone getting a delicious beer at their local brewery in Beacon, it's all kind of fits into the same model in my head.
Well, I'll tell you, but with just Dennis and Sam alone, I'm never going to get tired about talking about Hudson Valley sail freight and local malt, because every time I talk to you guys, there's more stories. And then Dennis, last story. Okay, those early hard days, besides the fact that no one wanted to buy local malt,
right?
How did you get the farmers on board way back when?
I felt like I was going out and selling Bibles. I would go, I would go to a farm.
As in, I already got one, or I don't need one.
Well, you got to think the average age of a grower is 62 years old. That's my age, right? So here I go to them talking about, hey, we're here in the Hudson Valley. We're 90 minutes from Times Square, right? I did the math. From Albany, New York to New York City, there's 12 million New Yorkers, right? 6 out of 10 of those people say that it's important to them to know what is in what they put in their body. Okay. So I just believe in numbers. I believe where we are. And I know that if you're going to climb a mountain, which I felt we were, that everybody has to start at the bottom. Right. And a lot of times it felt like we were pushing a rock up a hill, but either I was dumber than a rock, or we just kept going at it until we started getting support. And what's great about brewers like Mike and all his colleagues that are making beer here is they're like a fraternity. And Jeanette and I, of course, we came from the corporate world. And so here we are now, older in life, but we were in cutthroat. I would never have lunch with a competitor and explain to him my process when I was, in the corporate world. And I see these young brewers sharing their process, collaborating. I said, this is what I love. This is what I want to be a part of. And then they would spread the word. They'd say, hey, these guys up there in Germantown, they're making some great stuff. So our business grew from people like Mike that are out there that have their friends in other breweries. They work together, and our business grew by word of mouth from like-minded people like Mike that had a mission to make beers using local grains.
So Dennis, 7-8 years ago, some of those farmers were willing to dip their toes in the water for you. Yes. What was a typical planting that you were asking them to do?
Okay, so back then I was scared shitless. I would they would, I couldn't sell 500 pounds a month, and I had to make big commitments to them for at least 1,000 bushels with 30 acres, right? So I would make commitments, but I'd find out basically that it really was a struggle to get quality barley, and to have the help of Cornell University and the Cornell Cooperative Extension that will go in the field with me and speak with the growers and explain to the growers, hey, don't buy this seed that the seed company's offering you. We've done trials. That doesn't work. So, I mean, to educate them, go to the grain classes, all of the stuff that, Jeanette and I sat through and learned about grains, and to have university like Hartwick and the labs there that actually offer advice and guidance to growers, as well as malt houses like us that really, helped us grow. So I would say, they say never look back unless you want to see how far you've come, right, Jimmy? So I try not to look back, but sometimes I go, wow, I can't believe it. Sometimes I look at the kiln we have, and we were making 500-pound batches there, and now we're making 5,000-pound batches. So and nothing stays on shelves here. It's just, thank God for people like Mike. When we make this malt, when you rake this malt, when you kiln this malt, it comes out of the kiln, it's cleaned, it's bagged. Sometimes it palletized and goes down the road, and it's still warm. And we're so fortunate. And I guess you can kind of tell I'm excited that I am doing this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And do you drink more beer now, Dennis?
Well, I'm sitting here right now. As soon as we're done here, I'm going to finish off this Valley beer and get something to eat.
All right. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining me. And Mike from Hudson Valley Brewery, so great to talk to you. We talked way back in 2015, the new primitives, Hudson Valley. And we're all going to get together again. And Sam, when's the first voyage to New York City?
It'll be in May. We will start in May, and we'll be delivering monthly throughout until October.
Or you guys are great, man. Jeanette, Dennis, Sam, and Mike, thanks so much for joining me here on Heritage Radio Network. Big shout out to our engineer, Armin, who's going to help make this sound really great, as it should. I'm Jimmy Carboni. I'm the host. Let's catch you next time on Beer Sessions Radio. All right. Woo!
Beer Sessions Radio is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. For our freshest content, subscribe to our newsletter. Enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with us on Instagram and Twitter at heritage_radio. You can also find us at facebook.com/Heritage Radio Network. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization driving conversations to make the world a better, fairer, more delicious place. And we couldn't do it without support from listeners like you. Want to be part of the food world's most innovative community? Subscribe to the shows you like. Tell your friends, and please join the HRN family by becoming a member. Just click on the beating heart at the top right of our homepage. Thanks for listening.